Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. This is a special edition of Dr. Terralon, Live with Dr. Terralon. I know it's Wednesday. I usually come to you guys on Monday. So happy Wednesday to everybody out there. This is Dr. Terralon, your board certified family physician, speaker, author, and career coach. I help medical professionals make those pivotal changes so that they can find careers that allow them flexibility, financial independence, and freedom. You can find me on all social media outlets. That's Dr. Terralon. That's DRTERRAL. That's at Dr. Terralon. That's DRTERRALON on all social media outlets. And as you can see, guys, I have a new book coming out. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me. I Kissed Clinical Medicine goodbye. And you can find it at publishergift.lpages.co/Terralon/. Thank you so much for joining me on this special night. I'm so excited about the guests that we have. I'm a career coach, and it dawned on me I talk a lot about making pivotal changes. And I have a guest that has done just that. We talk about making that change from a career that allows us, that may not allow us freedom, to one that allows us freedom and flexibility. And I'm so honored to have my friend, Dr. Judy, who has done just that. And so without further ado, let me bring her in. Hi, Dr. Judy.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, guys, let me tell you about Dr. Judy. She's a fellow family physician who attended Southern. I am going to get this wrong. You just talked to me about this. Who attended SUNY Stony Brook in New York for undergrad, and then SUNY downstate for medical school. And I'm only going to give a brief overview. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. But again, like I said, a fellow family physician who, like me, discovered that we had these grand dreams of becoming a physician, but it didn't quite fit our needs at the time, and we needed to pivot. And so I talk a lot about these things, and you needed to make those changes so that they fit the needs of you and your family. And so I wanted to just talk to you because I think that your story is so amazing and so dynamic. So without further ado, Dr. Judy, please take it away. Talk to us today. Go ahead. Thank you for joining us.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. As Dr. Terralon said, I am a family physician. I am born and raised in New York and attended my undergrad and my medical schooling in New York, and I did my residency in New York. And so for me, I had a family physician as a young child, all the way through medical school, and just was so enamored with the work that he did. And yet I still thought I was going to be a pediatrician. But when I did get into medical school, I kind of realized, and I don't know if this happened to you, Terralon, I kind of realized that I didn't want to be bored. And the thing about family medicine is from day to day, from moment to moment, from room to room, you don't know what you're going to get. And so I decided to do family medicine. But family medicine changed from when I was a kid, and so I don't want to say, because I always felt rewarded working with my patients, but there was a lot of background to that that I wasn't so enamored with. And I was feeling that, and I knew it pretty early on, in practicing, but I was going to mull it out And then I started to do some research. And so I went the way of I had a few jobs, all of them as a physician, but I also started to do research, and you put all of this energy because really and truly, as you well know, when you are going to become a doctor, this doesn't start at the moment you go to medical school. It actually starts well before that. Like you've done all this stuff to gear toward that. So you're like, I did all this stuff to get my degree, and I
Mhm.
still want to be able to use it. If is there an alternative way for me to use that? And so I started looking into that, and in 2012, 2 years after having my son, because when I had my son, I really knew I'm gonna leave clinical medicine because the lifestyle is just not the one I wanted. And yeah, 2 years after I had my first child, I left clinical medicine.
And I think, and I mean, before you tell us a little bit more, I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's something interesting because you are telling us something that a lot of people, you did this sort of early. I think the pandemic highlighted a lot of this where now this used to be a dirty little secret in medicine where we wanted to secretly keep this. So if doctors wanted to leave medicine, it was sort of something that was, I don't know if you felt this way, but it was something that was frowned upon. Or if if doctors were suddenly wanted to, if they no longer wanted to see patients or needed to change, then it was something that they only told a certain, it wasn't something that was broadcast. It was
Mm-hmm.
not looked upon favorably because people would often say, "What? You don't want to see patients anymore? What's wrong with you? You went to school for all of
It's a
those years.
calling. It's a
You
calling. Why would you leave your calling?
exactly." And I don't know if you felt this way, but especially if you were a Black doctor, or you, how could you turn
The
your back
community
on the
needs you.
community?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you deal with that? Because I think it wasn't. I don't think especially now, I don't think it was more accepted, or people started to look upon this with a little bit more compassion until the pandemic came, when droves of more white doctors, when they could see how tough it could be, and what the strain the system provided when the pandemic hit. But then before, when people wanted to leave or got burned out, then we knew this was happening long before. So how
Oh
did you
yeah.
deal with that?
So you're absolutely correct. I because everything about being a doctor, even the pride that it gives, say, your family, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're doing this work, God's work, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You're caring for the community. You're caring for patients, and I I'll admit the first year to two, it didn't easily come out of it didn't easily come out of my mouth that I was no longer in clinical medicine. If someone asked directly, where do I work? I would tell them, but they kind of had to ask directly,
Yes. Yes.
right? And especially in the industry that we're in, that was even more, right? Because, you know, for physicians, it's like, where are you working now?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it wasn't easy. And I also was worried about what my family would think,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
you did all that work so that you could not take care of patients. Surprisingly enough, I don't want to say surprisingly they were supportive because they're always supportive, but my mom just took everything in so much stride because, and I think it had to do with what you'll have more time to spend with my grandchild. I'm good with it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so, I think that's what it was, and really truly that made me go, ah. It's like once your mom is okay with it, your dad's okay with it. Later for everybody else. But yeah, that first year to 2 years, it did not come easily out of my mouth. Now I have no problem with it, but it did not come easily because and it wasn't just oh, you think some people, no, people really were like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't an assumption. It really was happening then. I think it's more accepted now, you know? But even then, even as I was making my transition, I was about to say I found a conference. It actually found me, but I think it's because, I didn't understand as much then, but you understand now, you do searches. I think because I was doing so many searches, this conference found me, and it was about alternative careers. And and I went to it because I wanted to understand. So,
Well, thank you so much for sharing and
right.
being brave and being transparent, because I want people to understand, not if you, whether you're in medicine or without or outside of medicine, that if you're in a capacity where you're serving, if that position is not serving you, then you can't do your job well. So I applaud you for recognizing that you could not do your job well and it wasn't serving you well. And then also to recognize that you can still be a doctor in healthcare, even if you are not directly in front of a patient. And I think that's what healthcare is huge. And so we can actually work behind the scenes, advocating for patients,
Yes.
even if we are not in front of the patient. And I think that's the one thing that we've learned now, that we can probably we absolutely need to be in those spaces where we are not necessarily in front of the patients, but we are in those offices, in those spaces where there are people who don't necessarily look like us, who are making the more important decisions, especially how healthcare dollars are spent, advocating for us. So let's get to some more questions. So how did you make the change, and what kinds of things are you doing now that is making you happy, that's giving you more freedom? So let's talk about that, the things that get you up in the morning, and the things that you love to do, the things that give you joy in healthcare.
So, first and foremost, like I said, and it's okay. I think people have problems with this. If something does, as you said, if something doesn't serve you, if your lifestyle has changed, I didn't just jump into jumping, even though I had been looking, I didn't just jump into it. I actually started to transition I did some part-time to see, and then a different part. And I just kept going and going. Like I actually, transitioned probably 3 times in like just over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally said, this is what I have to do. I need to stop inching toward it because I'm having a hard time dealing with getting out of clinical medicine, and just jump. And I didn't regret it. And so the ability to spend more time with, at the time, my child, and now my children, is what brings me joy. It gives me more flexibility. And just not having to, so like I will work from home, right? And for some people, and I noticed this during the pandemic, some people, they like getting up and leaving the house all the time. I'm good with working from home, and being very productive, and being able to get the work done. And so, and then when the time is over, I can spend time helping my children with homework. I'm helping them do things. It was really helpful during the pandemic. I shouldn't say it as if it's over, but you know what I mean. So, um, just being able to do that. Last year, I started I would say probably 2017, 2018, Terralon, I'm probably a slow learner. I started to feel like there needs to be more,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm still doing medicine, and I very much, as you said, I very much feel like I'm still doing medicine. It may not be direct patient care, but I'm still doing medicine, and that's fine. And I really love what I do, but I doesn't mean I don't want more, right? So I felt like there was to be more, and so I started to think, what could that be? And I wasn't sure, but with everything slowing down last year, I looked at it as a positive. And that's not to, slight anybody that went through some harrowing times last year, but I actually looked at it as a positive because, things were moving pretty fast in the previous 2 years. And it was hard to even have time to just sit back and say, that you feel like there's something more, but you don't even have time to figure out what that is. And when everything slowed down, because it's one thing when you slow down, but when everything else is forced to slow down too, you actually can sit back, breathe a sigh of relief, and say, now let me think. Okay. And while I was doing that, a couple of nurses that I worked with at my previous job came to me and said, we were thinking of doing a podcast. I said, well, that's cool. They said, we would like you to consider doing it with us. The first thing I said was, that's not me.
That's awesome.
Right? I was like, that's not me.
That's
I don't
awesome.
do podcasts. But I hung up with one of them, and then I sat back and said, but why is it not you? Why did you automatically say that's not you? If you don't like it, you just stop. It's not a life and death situation. And from that, the podcast Queens on Call was born last year, about a year ago.
That's awesome.
So, I'm involved in a podcast, and I'm also trying to put my hands in other things, it's other things that interest me, so right now I'm, looking into, I have, my children have multiple food allergies, and that's a big interest for me because I deal with it every day with them. And so now I'm working on a children's book about allergies, about food allergies, and how to, it's one thing for the parents to deal with it, but I'm a big proponent of educating the people who are dealing with the issue. And that includes your kids. Your kids are so smart, right? You want to educate them too. And that's what I've done with mine.
Absolutely.
So I want to, that's one of the things I'm working now. And it makes me smile to think about it, and to work on it. So.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. So, I'm going to ask you about this. So since you about coaching. So I happen to know that you are coaching, and I'm so happy that you gave me the privilege to actually coach you, and I'm so honored that you were my client. So tell me how coaching has actually help you move into that next realm. So tell the audience, because a lot of people think of coaching as, well, I hear about this coaching thing, but, everybody's doing it, or I think it could be a waste of money, or, but tell me what your experience has been.
So I will say that probably 4 years ago, I would have said the same thing. I've since taken a few courses for different things that I want to do. So I actually am a coach.
Uh-oh, I think
we're here.
Frozen, Judy? Okay, yeah. Got you.
Right. It pushed me to get it done. And that's when I realized the benefit and to say college, and we go, whatever university, wherever you are, what you call it, and we happily pay for that. It's expected, but it can come in the form of coaching. It may not be an accredited university, but there's lots to learn, and the best way to do that is to learn from people that did it. So let me just say, okay, I've known you for several years, and I saw you talking on these Facebook Lives, and I was just like, that's a little different than the Terralon I know, right? And whatever she's got going on, that's what I want, right? And so even though I know you were talking about helping people maybe pivot out of clinical medicine, but it doesn't even have to be medicine, right? Just helping people pivot. I've been out of clinic in 2012, but as I said, I felt like there was more. And how do I even get there? And that's when I reached out to you. And to say it absolutely has been a godsend to have undergone coaching, because it focuses you. It gets you out of your comfort zone. If they're doing it correctly, it gets you out of your comfort zone, and it really allows you to start to focus. Even then, I still wasn't sure. And I'm still trying to weed through some of it. But what I find is that my brain is more activated to, that's a potential opportunity right there that, I can, an opening that I can get into, a hole where no one has done that, and maybe I should. I always used to say, how do these people even know to invent this stuff, right? Because what? Can you see me?
Yeah. It froze up just a little bit. I can see you.
Okay. I never really would think beyond that. And it's almost because you're so busy you don't. But some people's brains, they just activate. They see an opportunity every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is that, I won't say I see an opportunity every day, but I'm thinking more. The wheels keep turning more, and I'm seeing them more often. And I think coaching had a big part to do with that, because some things seemed so, I wouldn't even begin to know how to get that done. And now it's more like, okay, I may not know, but somebody would, and if they did that, then maybe I need to go to them and say, sort of like, almost like an apprenticeship. How can I learn what you know? How can I do that? So coaching, it was so beyond helpful for me.
And that's why I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing, because I try to share pearls. And then I was like, well, I think people probably get tired of me telling them. I think it's really helpful for them to hear from someone else, because I certainly get coached, and a good coach has a coach. And I certainly, I have a coach, and, I definitely try to share my version of what I've interpreted and what I've learned, and what I see for you. The first thing I try to definitely hone in on is, what do you need from me? Where are you trying to be? What are your roadblocks, and how can I help you? Because I think the biggest thing is, one, everybody has mindset issues. I think we didn't all get to be these wonderful professionals by accident. We have the drive. We just need to figure out, what are those roadblocks? And most of the time, they're mental roadblocks. What are those mental roadblocks? What do we need to remove to get to where we need to be? And then the rest of it is, once we figure out what those are, then a lot of it's the accountability. And I think the accountability is a huge piece. And being a cheerleader. So you need somebody in your corner. telling you that you can do those things. So, because you're doing the work. So I don't know. It was fun. It's just as much fun for me to see you achieve those goals, and then not only achieve the goals, but sometimes surpass what you thought you could do. So I'm very excited. I love coaching. So thanks so much for sharing. Are you still there, Dr. Judy? You look a little frozen. Can you hear me? So while we're waiting for Dr. Judy to get back, I just want to reiterate that I'm very excited. Oh, we've lost her. I'll wait for her to get back. I'm very excited that my new book is out. Thank you, Cousin Carol. If you're still with us, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for the congratulations. And my new pre-sales are going on now. The book is $20. And if you buy two, I'll knock a couple of dollars off. I'll pay for the $5. And the shipping is $5, even for 2 books. It's called I Kiss Clinical Medicine Goodbye. It's really about not just the journey of deciding to move from clinical medicine, which is just seeing patients, but to move to other areas of healthcare. But it's not just about being a doctor. It's to really encourage anyone else. If you've, gotten in a career where you feel like it doesn't quite fit, having the courage and the mindset to move to something that will give you that freedom to do what you want to do. And it would be my absolute pleasure. And if you order there, to get you a signed copy. There will be an official launch. Oh, Dr. Judy's back. To get your signed copy. If you order there, hey, Dr. Judy's back. There will be an official launch on July 21st where you can help me, and there'll be details coming so that you can help me get the bestseller title on that day. So that we'll have a huge launch party then. But until then, we're in pre-sales now. So Dr. Judy's back. But I was just saying, Dr. Judy, I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I think you're going to help a lot of people. This is all about helping people get unstuck and not being stuck in places where they are just going through the motions, being in a place where they, feel like, well, I've gone to school, I've done all this work to get to this one place. I have to stay here. No, if you have the capacity to move, first it's about changing the mindset and making that decision, and then taking advantage of the resources that will get you there, not being afraid. We talk about doing it scared, doing it messy, but just doing it. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you see an opportunity, not being just like you were presented with that opportunity to do a podcast, why not? Will it work?
Yeah, it can happen. If it's not working out, it's not working out, and you move on to the next.
I love it. I love the fact that you've tried. So, and I love the fact that you're about to do a children's book. I love it. These are things that you weren't doing a couple of years ago.
Absolutely not even thinking about it.
Love it. So you have all of these titles. You're not just doctor. You're author, speaker, educator, podcaster, yes. Mom. You're about to add culinary specialist on allergy, experts. Yeah. So I'm just very proud to know you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Let me see. I'm missing some comments. I don't want to miss the comments. So, let's see. Oh, my cousin Dara, thank you for joining. She just sent a heart. And my cousin Alicia says, congratulations. Thank you so much. Let me see. That has come StreamYard. Let me just pop on over and see if I don't know if you have your Facebook open. I don't want to miss any comments. If I do, I'll respond to them in Facebook. Sometimes they don't always come through StreamYard. But I want to thank everybody who has joined today. And guys, like and share this. I'll certainly automate it so that we'll do an encore presentation of this. But I definitely want to encourage everyone. And Dr. Judy, I know you have some followers that certainly follow you. Dr. Judy does lots of presentations on her Facebook Lives about allergies. I've certainly learned a lot because I know you have 2 children who have allergies, and I've learned so much about just I don't know, is it okay to call them allergy hacks, or maybe that's not. Maybe that's not the proper term, but alternatives, tips. That's better. That's better. But I've learned so much because we don't get it all in medical school, and some of them are just practical tips of what to do, what you've done with cooking and just your everything. I mean, I know you've had to do with school and camp. Just birthday, how you survive on a birthday part. I mean, because I have a child who now has developed a seafood allergy. So, and this is new. He's 9.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So you just never know when you're going to need that. So I really appreciate it.
You don't. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have you. How can we contact you if people have questions for you or want to get? I mean, you have this children's book coming out later, and they have an allergy question or one of the Queens on Call podcast. How can we get in contact with you?
So myself directly, I am on Twitter and Instagram as @Dr_Judy_Wright. You can also reach me on Facebook at Judy Wright. And for the Queens on Call podcast, you can listen to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It's called Queens on Call. But you can also reach us at Queens on Call on Instagram and Twitter. And then on Facebook, it's Queens, and then On Call is one word.
Queens, so Queens is one word. Again, sorry. Queens on Call. At Queens on Call?
So on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Queens on Call as one word.
Okay.
But on Facebook, Queens and On Call are separated.
Okay, got it.
And that's how you find it. And then you could also reach us on our webpage, www.thequeensoncall.com.
Okay. All right. www.thequeensoncall.com. Okay. And then my cousin Dara asked me to put a link to the book in the description box. Oh, so Dara, I don't know if you see it on the screen. The link for my book, I'll actually copy and paste it. So the link, there's a description to the page on the book. The publisher gift.lpages.co/Terralon/ there's a that link actually has a description to the book. So I'm gonna actually put that right now. I'm gonna type that too.
And I just want to say I'm so proud of you for
thank you.
I'm just like, wow, it just came to in my mind so quickly, how you've done this and transitioned, and you really have some pearls to impart, and everybody can learn something from it. It's not just about clinical medicine, that you can help people transition if that's what they choose to do.
I appreciate it. And I hope, even if it's, you're not in medicine, people will just understand if, you've gone to school, or even whether you've not gone to school or not, you've chosen this job, whatever you've chosen, you thought, I don't know, if you wanted to be a bank teller and, it ended up, not being what you thought it would be, and you feel stuck and you no longer want to do that anymore, but you have your eye on some other career. I just want you to understand sort of the journey, or the process that I went through to make, this no longer fits. Like you said, medicine changed. From when I was a kid. The whole system changed. And so it no longer, and then not only that, when I was growing up, I didn't figure raising a family into that. So, and then on top of that, I had, kids who had, special needs. So, and figuring all of that into that, that just didn't fit the kind of the lifestyle. Those two lifestyles didn't fit, but I still wanted to serve people. So if I said all that to say, if what you decided to do when you were, I don't know, 15 and you got to be 25 and those things no longer fit and your life changed, life happens. So if you need to make those changes, then don't be afraid to do it. And life, and I even still feel like, we're in a constant state of change, and and now I'm thinking about, I want to be an entrepreneur and just we just want to do it. Podcasting wasn't around. Hey, I want to be like you. I'm actually going to talk to you more about podcasting. Like, what's that? So, but anyway, I don't want to belabor it anymore. Just thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and I hope everyone will like and share this, and we'll play it again for people until they get it and say, hey, I'm going to do that. And hopefully this share of this helps someone or helps a whole lot of people. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Dr. Judy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. If you'll hold on while we say goodbye to everybody after the broadcast, I'm going to end the broadcast. If you'll hang on afterwards, that'll be great.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.